All right, we're going to be the market expert and kicking this thing off with this property here on Zillow. So this is the most expensive house in Colorado right now. I think actually ever. $125 million, 125 Rudney Circle, Aspen, Colorado, 15 beds, 19 baths, 25,277 square feet. And I tried to pull this up on RE Colorado and I couldn't find it. So I did have to go to Zillow. But we'll go over the quick overview real quick. This thing is a compound. This thing is monstrous. Just kind of looking through it. There's your front entrance, log cabin. Pretty neat, pretty neat house. I can't imagine having to clean it. And here it is. I did read that the owner's net worth is something like $2 billion. And so if you are a $2 billion heir, I guess this is kind of the home that you have in Aspen. So let's kind of go through. There's your hot tub. Looking over the plains, this reminds me of Yellowstone. There's your gym. Who needs to go to 24-hour fitness? You're going through. It looks like this is where you send your mother-in-law, maybe. I'm not sure. There's another one. I was gonna say the other mother-in-law, but there's not two mother-in-laws. Yeah, definitely this thing is huge. This is a monstrous house with many, many houses on top of it. Again, you can't find this on RE Colorado. It's up in the Aspen MLS. Um, but kind of interesting. So this is your most expensive home ever in Colorado, $125 million, 25,000 square feet. Find a buyer, guys. I would say like my big advice for the day is find the buyer for this property. I can't calculate what 3% of this is off the top of my head yet. I would say it's life-changing money. So there we go. Want to jump into this next article, and it says the vanishing young home buyer. So this is from Resi Club. It came out, it says median first-time home buyer age jumps from 28 in 1991 to 38 in 2024. Remember, like most everything that we're doing is going to be rear view facing data. Like that's kind of what we look at. And so it says the median first-time home buyer in 2024 is 38 years old and has been out of high school for almost 20 years, but is also only 24 years away from the earliest age at which they could receive Social Security benefits at 62. And it's like, guys, if that stat doesn't just like hit everybody in the face, I don't know what does, right? And this is important for numerous reasons. But I think the biggest thing is when we're going through and we're developing relationships and we're taking mind share and we're doing all these different things, one of the things that we need to keep in mind is the cost of money, the affordability of where we live inside of Colorado, and the messaging that we're putting out there to get in front of people. Now, here's the thing. This does not mean that there isn't 28-year-olds still buying houses, right? Like that's far from the truth. And what that does mean is that there is a bigger barrier to entry than there has ever been in our society when it comes to purchasing real estate as far as age goes, right? And so, as we're thinking about this and as we're thinking about getting into relationship with people, do you have a marketing plan that is more geared to a 38-year-old or more geared to a 28-year-old? And with that being said, like let's look at it. So it says the median age 91, 28, 38 for 2024. And I think again, right, they're saying 24 years away from the earliest that someone could receive Social Security benefits. So if we're looking at this thing, here's just your graph showing that. And I think the visuals on this thing are super important. When we're trying to tell a story, I'll throw it here in the chat if someone wants to grab this and run with it and do something with it. And you can see, right? So we're looking at 1991, there's 28. Yeah. And so it's kind of fluctuated. Here's some 30s. We got down, right? 2008, 30. And again, right, keep in mind there's many houses that were for sale in this time period. The cost of money was reasonable. I think it was like 5%, 5, 6% is what the cost of money was looking like. And there was multiple houses on every street that were for sale in this area. Then we started getting into like 2014, the 2017 area, right? Where we started seeing like real estate started like picking up. Then we got into 2020. The cost of money was very inexpensive, right? We know this 2020, 2021, the beginning part of 2022. And then we got into these areas where the cost of money started going up. And it's not that this is the highest interest rate that we've ever seen as a society yet. This is some of the highest priced homes that we've ever seen as a society. Couple that with 6-7% interest rate, and the affordability goes down for most buyers. So when we look at this thing, it says back in 1991, the median age of a repeat home buyer was 42. Well, think about that, right? So we're saying 42 in 1991 was the time that someone was second, third, fourth home, maybe. And yet we're saying 38 is a first time home buyer today. Now they're saying a repeat median age for a home buyer in 2024 is 61 years of age. Again, when I'm looking at this data, I'm just thinking like, what do we need to do to make sure that we're just taking massive mind share from truly everyone? Like, how are we getting into relationship with people? Because we do know that the demographics of your home buyer are changing. So we look at this thing, and here's your graph. We got the yellow line repeat home buyers, all home buyers in the black, and in the blue we got first time home buyers. And so here we are, right? So you have your first time home buyer in 2024, 38 years old. All home buyers, the median age of all home buyers is 56. And then when we're talking about repeat home buyers, they're going through and they're saying 61. So kind of going through this and looking like, what does the marketing campaign look like? Are we going through and are we having conversations on social media, right? What platforms? We do know that most Facebook still does win out. It might not get the message out there to as many people, but most people are on Facebook, right? We're going through, we're thinking about, are we targeting neighborhoods that we're going to go have conversations with? Are we going into these open houses? Are we getting into relationship with as many people as possible? And what does our marketing message look like? Are we utilizing text, phone call, email, postcards, handwritten notes, right? Like, we do not know, but this is a huge discrepancy in your buyer pool. So then we're going to go through, and it says another factor is that the older US homeowner with substantial equity or even a paid off primary residence are a little less sensitive to the recent mortgage rate shock. If they need to buy, some have taken the plunge over the past couple of years, avoiding 6 and 7% mortgage rates and simply paying all cash. Yes, I think that's the biggest messaging that we need to keep in mind, is that we have the most equity in our homes today. The balance sheets on most homes in the nation right now are in the green, positive, right? Where they've gone through, they've purchased homes and the equity has increased and increased and increased, and their balance sheets are looking very, very good. And what they're doing from there is we're seeing all kinds of stuff, guys, where people are having second, third, fourth homes. They're going through, we're even seeing these parents, right? I'm gonna go with the term boomer. I'm gonna go the boomer generation. They even call it right here, right? The giant baby boomer generation, right? To where they're going through, they're actually helping their kids, right? So while delayed life events and fewer home buyers in the 20s and 30s are helping to drive up the median age for repeat buyers, part of the increase is repeat buyers' age stems from the population skewing older as the giant baby boomer generation ages and birth rates decline. And what we're also seeing is this is the generation nationwide that holds most of the nation's wealth, is the baby boomer generation. So what we are seeing at the same time is we are seeing them help their kids purchase property as well. They're taking some of the equity out of their home. They're selling assets. They're selling businesses. They're selling something to be able to help their kids purchase these homes as well, which also probably skews this information a little bit. But here we go. Here's an interesting one. Has home seller growth lost momentum? All right. So it says the share of listings with price reductions are at a 10-year high. 10-year high. we are seeing more price reductions now as a nation than we have over the last 10 years. And so it says this week, leading indicator of price reductions is more bearish for home prices. The sale of homes on the market with price reductions ticked up this week, which is unusual early in this season. Okay, right. We know that we go to sleep as jack-o'-lanterns, we wake up as Easter bunnies, we are in the spring market. And as we're going forward, we know that historically speaking, this is when most homes hit the market and the buyers are out and we're not having to play these games. And again, there's still pockets. And I think that's what's important to keep in mind here. There are still pockets of multiple offer homes. I don't know if anyone else saw the flash sale on that golden home on Lookout Mountain this weekend, where they took it and they dropped it for a 1 day only sale for 475,000. They marketed it as a half off. Today, if you were to go look at that home, they got 40 offers and they had this $475,000 home. And I think they're under contract right now for $930,000. I also rode on a home this weekend in West Arvada where they had 6 offers right on this home, and so again we're still seeing this auction house mentality that we did in 2021, which is zero fun for anybody. But to this point, while we are seeing a huge number of price reductions, we are still seeing pockets of homes that are priced right, where they're getting a lot of attention from the home buyer population. I truly don't believe that a lot of people are backing away that are in the market to purchase a home over interest rates. I think that America at this point is over the shock and awe of 7% interest rates, and they are declining. And what they are more excited about is how flat they're staying. So if we look at this thing, it says new listings are hitting the market. Last year was an environment with 5 to 10% more sellers each year, each week over the previous year. And so if we look at this thing, here's the change in seller volume from the previous year. And so this is just going kind of month by month if you were to look at this. And so we were in the negatives 2022 through 2023, multiple events happening, right? We had interest rates that were driving some of this, right? And so we know this. And then we had more inventory than the previous year, which makes sense, right? So it swings a little bit. It's going to fluctuate a little bit, but here we are. So we have less inventory now than we did the previous year. Okay, cool, makes sense. So then we're looking through, it says new seller supply growth is slowing. So here we are, 2025. This blue line is 2024. We're seeing a decrease, right? We're going through and we're seeing more unsold homes. I'm sorry. So we're seeing it happen. So the new seller supply growth is slowing down. It says there was slightly more new listings unsold this year than there was a year ago. And it says, and there are 30% fewer immediate sales now than there was last year. And so, yeah, absolutely, right? We are seeing, again, with interest rates, we are seeing more people get used to the idea of purchasing houses. And we're not going to see people make knee-jerk reactions. And I think that we are seeing that. It says that leaves 54,000 left to bolster activity inventory. So it says national inventory drops to 632,000 homes. And we don't want that. We need more homes hitting the market. So available inventory from 2015 to today, guys, this is an issue. This is an issue. And the issue is this: we have more people in the United States today than we did in 2015. I don't care how you slice the math and break this thing up. We have people that are being born, coming to age, having creating bigger families. We have people that are migrating from other countries into the United States. We have other countries like China that view the United States as a great place to invest in real estate, and that's where they're putting their money into United States inventory. We have, and that's also creating more issues out in California with everything that they have. That's a whole nother story. Yet, as we're going through, we have to keep in mind that our population is growing and is growing and is growing. And this is the reason why home sales are not plummeting. It does not matter. The interest rates do not matter right now. And I'm telling you this, interest rates do not matter. There are too many people. Now, here's the thing. Can we see in Colorado, with our price point being where it is, that we are going to see slower growth? Absolutely. In the terms of sales. Yeah, sure. Why not? We do have more inventory popping up on the market in Colorado. We have a very high price point. Interest rates are high. And so we're going to see less people be super apt to move or to, buy a house in Colorado. Also, what we're seeing is we're seeing more people leave Colorado than migrate to Colorado at this point as well. And so we are actually seeing our population shrink. Yet, with that being said, we're not seeing flash sales on homes. What we will see more so is people are going to put their home on the market, they're going to test the waters, and if it doesn't sell, they're going to remove their home. They're going to rent it. They're going to go relive back in their home. They're going to do something. The only people that are truly being forced to sell their house at this point are people that are underwater and have lost a job. Those are going to be the only people at jeopardy of having to sell their house at a flash sale. And again, I don't think that they're losing money. They might not be at the market value that they have perceived. Yet, for the most part, again, the balance sheets on most homes in the United States are green. They are super positive at this point. So, when you go through and we look at this, yes, we are seeing some things with some federal jobs. We have no clue how that thing's going to play out. I think I heard there's something like 40,000 federal jobs in Colorado that are, potentially at risk. To where we're also seeing some closure of some federal buildings in Colorado potentially that could lead to getting, recalled back to Washington and some other areas. We don't know what and how that's going to play out. And again, when we're going through and we're thinking about this is our job as real estate agents to make sure that we are being that real estate economist of choice, having the conversations that are needed to have with our consumers so that they understand what their competition looks like. And their competition is not 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It is what's on the market today in the area. Because if we're going apples to apples, or we're just looking at 3 bedrooms and 2 baths to 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, they're always going to choose the cheaper version. That's just kind of where we are right now. Like, the American dream of sweat equity is still a thing that most people are looking for, depending on what their age bracket looks like. So it says price reductions reached the highest level in a decade. And we just talked about that. Here we are in this purple. Now we get it, right? When we're looking at some of this stuff, so, 2015, 2019, 2020, 2022, like the beginning part. And again, 2022 starts to get weird, right? This is when the interest rates start going up. We started seeing price reductions start to happen. And yet we're higher than we have been in a very long time. It says 33% of all single family listings have taken a price cut. And we do know, historically speaking, over the course of a year, 1/3 of all homes take a price cut. But yet we don't typically see it this early, right? Like, it's actually starting to spike up, which also tells me that we have more motivated people. There are more motivated people that believed, right? They listened to their real estate agent or HGTV or their buddy that sold in a different state 3, 4 years ago that the market was hot in the springtime. And so they listed in the spring, right? They waited till February. They put their home on the market, which I guess still winter, but we're going through, they're putting their home on. And then they're realizing it's sitting for a little bit longer and they have somewhere they need to be, right? Like, some motivating life event has popped up, which is forcing them to sell, and they're taking these price cuts. And I think we're going to see that more so and more so, especially in Colorado. Home prices are 2.4% up versus last year. Guys, high interest rates, no inventory, right? We're seeing less inventory, and we're still seeing prices go up. And it says, right, it does show it like it went down a little bit. But here's the thing. Everywhere, we know, historically speaking, year over year, from 1991 and to today, 4% year over year growth. Yes, Some years are 2. We've had a couple 10 in there, and they're predicting, at least in Colorado, for us to be somewhere around 2% this year. I think that's a very important conversation. I don't know about you guys, but I'm finding myself in conversations with potential buyers right now, and they're saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm just going to hold off for a couple years, and we'll see what kind of happens." And it's like, well, here's the thing: the same home that you're looking at today, if we're doing straight line appreciation over the next 3 years, that home's going to be 6% more in X amount of years, right? Like in 3 years, 2% appreciation if it were to stay on that trajectory. So as we're looking at this thing, guys, this is important, right? We saw some bigger spikes here, and yet we're seeing homes, and this is median price of new contracts pending. So we don't know when these are going to close out. This is just saying new contracts pending. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what concessions look like. We don't know if they're paying their buyer agent compensation. We don't know any of that information. We never will ever again. Yet the price that they went under contract for, 2.4% higher, at least from the purchase data. Home sales are averaging 5% below last year. All right, so we're seeing less houses. Less houses are under contract. And again, I think that a lot of that's going to just be due to presidential election. We're going to see some different things, uncertainty in the air. And again, the market's just a little bit different right now. So let's fast forward and let's get into our weekly conversation from Logan Motoshami with lead housing wire for, or lead analyst for Housing Wire. And it says another jobs week has come to an end, and AIM, the chaotic headlines about job numbers, tariffs, and leadership of the Treasury, mortgage rates remained calm. Guys, I'm telling you right now, that's going to be the story of 2025. If mortgage rates remain calm and they do not fluctuate like a roller coaster, you're going to have clients raising their hands looking to both buy and sell. Let's get the narrative out of our head that homes are too expensive for everyone, because we're going to start seeing this. It says the situation contrasts with the challenges the market faced in 2023 during the banking crisis, when the Federal Reserve was raising rates. And we saw a lot of stuff with the banking crisis, right? We also saw a lot of banks that were over leveraged, and they were taking people's money and they were investing people's money, and they weren't able to do the cash calls when people came looking for their money. And so we did see the Fed have to get involved and to buy out some banks, right? We did see that. So we're not going to talk about spreads. We're not going to talk about the 10-year yield, purchase application data. So here we go. Let's look at the visual. We're still higher than 2024. It is going down a little bit, and we're not where we were in 2023. So, but again, while it is taking a little bit of a dive, we need to make sure that we're going out and we're reaching out to people, right? Like, with this being said, while it did go lower, there are still people raising their hands. Are we in relationship with them? We have to figure out what's going on, because if we do find out that it is an interest rate, right, it is the cost of money, which typically it is. The cost of money is what's slowing people down. And we have relationships where we know that we are able to get the cost of money a little bit cheaper, whether it's from a new build, or we're able to negotiate concessions, because you guys are in so much power these days with these new contracts. Like, these new contracts are, and all, they're good, right? The NAR lawsuit was put out there as, oh my God, the industry. And at the end of the day, you guys have the ability to negotiate so much stuff with the market that we are in right now. Your clients should win. We're looking at this thing in weekly pending sales. And so we just talked about it. We're falling down a little bit, right? So we're at 288,000. The year before, we were 297,000, but we are up over 2023. So here's just your visual representation of that. We are still just kind of right there. Like, we just kind of bump over 2023 right there. Not much. And obviously 2022, we're not going to be able to compete with 2022 until we get to the latter, the second part, the second half of this year. Because again, just keep in mind, this is when interest rates were still pretty low. They were rising. And that's when people started kind of getting spooked a little bit. So we haven't caught up to that. So we don't really want to compare anything to 2022, definitely not 2021, surely not 2020. Your weekly housing inventory data, right, as we're kind of going through and we're looking at this thing, it says the highest of 2024 for him. was the growth in inventory, right? That was the highlight. And he began to return to normal levels. All right, cool. So let's look at this thing. It says weekly inventory change, right? Inventory fell. All right, so we did fall. And if we were looking at this same time last year, it also fell. Okay, cool. So we are almost living in the exact same situation that we were in the year prior. If we were to look at the all-time inventory bottom of at least 2022, remember past the pandemic, 240,000, and the inventory peak of last year, 739,000 homes. So we do not have as many homes on the market right now as the peak of 2024. So when we do look at some interesting information, right, let's go back all the way to 2015, pre-pandemic. Again, that's where we consider a normal and healthy market, anything pre-2020. And we're looking at 947,000 guys. Like, this is the issue that we are running into. You want to know why interest rates are not doing and driving anything around the housing market right now as far as prices? Is because there's more people living in the United States today, again, no matter how you slice it, and there's not enough inventory. And yes, there are people that are putting their home at prices that are unrealistic and they're not selling, because there are still a lot of emotions attached to people's homes. Yet there still isn't enough inventory on the market to drive down the prices of all other houses as well. So here we are, 28% more inventory right now than we had last year. And here we are, like, this is where we're going. We're aiming to get up to this 2019 level. This is what is going to make all the difference for both our buyers and our sellers when we get to here. Because keep in mind, we're over here and we're cheering, yes, our sellers want as much money as possible. But historically speaking, most sellers become buyers. So even if they do get into a bidding war, this auction house mentality that we were in 2021, then they have to face it on the buy side. So let's just get into a balanced market to where the buyers and the sellers are coming, they're both in agreement. We have a compromise where nobody wins. And it's a market where we can actually have some conversations and negotiate back and forth. We're going through, it says new listing data 2025, 53,000, new listing data from last week over the previous several years. Then we look at 24, 51,000. Let's get our visual representation of that. Here we are right here. So this is good. More homes on the market. We want this number to keep climbing. Everything that we're seeing, we want more and more homes to enter the market, sit a little bit longer, and we will see some things start to spark and to kind of move for us. Your price cut percentage is 33%. And again, this is the spring, right? So 33%, 2024, 31. So here we are. And again, 2022, very hard to talk about this year when we're kind of looking at this as we're going forward, because this is where interest rates still super low. And then interest rates started coming up and we started seeing more and more price reductions as people were looking to motivated sellers getting their homes off the market. So the week ahead, right? So this is this week, because again, everything that we're looking at is rear view facing data. And with that rear view facing data, what we're going to go through is we're looking at this week. It says this week is our traditional inflation week, but with a twist. Certain members of the Federal Reserve seem more confident about the disinflation trend in in rents, which significantly impacts the consumer price index, the CPI. However, the confidence does not extend too much to the producer price index or the personal consumption expenditures inflation data. And so we're going to have to put all the assumptions to the test. I was actually listening to this podcast, and this is kind of what's interesting, is that a lot of this data, who cares? It's kind of what it boils down to. Because when we're looking at this thing, you have to figure that there's two different political beliefs attached to all of this stuff. We are human, and we have one side of the aisle saying that everything's going to be looking good for the next 4 years, and we have one side of the aisle saying it's not going to be as good as it was the previous 4 years. And that's just kind of where we're living, right? Especially when we're talking about the Federal Reserve. Again, they're still human. They still have political beliefs. and we're just gonna have to kind of see where it plays out. And here's your jobless claims. Guys, nothing really crazy is happening here yet. Again, who knows what happens, how everything kind of plays out. This will actually, we don't want to see anything bad happen to this number. At the end of the day, we're Americans. We want everyone to have their job. We want everyone to be employed. But this is what we do know. The unfortunate truth with everything, if the jobless claim starts to spike, interest rates come down. And the thought process again behind this, I know this is a broken record, yet the thought process is if Americans have jobs, Americans do not need cheap money. They can afford it. Even if they can't afford it, they don't need money, right? I mean, think about the credit card bills that we have as a nation right now. Think about all the Amazon purchases that are going out. So the thought process with our Fed is that if Americans have jobs, we don't need to drop the rates down because they can afford it. And if we keep it where it is, it's going to keep inflation at bay. Now, if Americans start to lose their jobs, and again, right now, the big one could be the federal employees. The federal employees start to lose their jobs, and then we have some issues at that point, right? And then we actually need to stimulate the economy. That's when they start to drop rates. So people can actually go borrow money, and then we start to see an expansion, right? We actually start to see more people borrow money. They go out, they buy businesses, they go hire more employees because they're selling more widgets. Like that's what this thing looks like. So again, we're not rooting for this number. We want this number to stay where it is. We do not want to see jobless claims go up. Just know that if it does go up, your interest rates start going down, which is not what we're hoping for. We're hoping for lower interest rates. We're not hoping for people to lose their jobs. No one wants that. It says this week, we will likely see more headline drama related to reciprocal tariffs, and we'll discuss how the market reacts to them. Again, I think the big one was steel today or maybe yesterday. And so we'll see how that kind of plays out. But home builders are already raising their hands. And this is probably going to be an issue for us for building materials going up, and the cost of homes are going to potentially go up for at least new builds as well. Here's the real headline, right? We keep talking about this. Interest rates. This is 1 month worth of time. It's going to stop as of yesterday, right? So let's looking at the 10th. Today is the 11th of the time of this call that you guys are on right now. Guys, this is what we want to see. This is it, right? Like, I'm not even cheering on that it's going down. Yes, that's good. It's not going to really sway purchase power too much, right? 6, 7 versus 7. Like that's not going to, sway too much purchase power. But look how flat this is. This is good. Like this is what you want to see. Sellers become buyers. And so if we can start to get comfortable with knowing what the potential cost of money is going to be 30, 60, 90 days from now, with homes sitting on the market longer, this is a win. This is the story we should be talking about, right? Like interest rates are staying pretty flat. Yes, they're going down, but we're not seeing huge ebbs and flows, right? And what I mean by that, again, like, look at this. This is a roller coaster. This is third world country stuff right here. This isn't America. This isn't where we live, right? So as we're talking about the United States, this is not what consumers, the citizens of the United States expect from our economy, right? Like this, as it's fluctuating back and forth, this is what scares people away. If we continue to see this stagnation and it's staying pretty flat, I don't care. Like, we don't want to see it obviously go up to 8, but I think if it stays at 7, I think your consumers start raising their hands still, right? They're still maybe not excited about spending the money, but they can actually get their mind wrapped around it. People, what the issue is, they want to judge the market. They want to time it, right? Like someone's thinking about getting here and they're like, I want to wait. And then we hit this low and they're like, can it get lower? And then it shoots up. And now they missed their window and they're like, you know what? I'm going to wait till it drops again. And then the only drop is not as significant. Like these are the issues. This is what's going through our people's mind is they're seeing random valleys, right? And they're seeing these valleys and they're like, I'm going to time the next market drop. And they can't. We know that's a non-winning battle. So again, this flatness is what we want to see. We're going to see more people raise their hand. Let's talk about our value. Let's talk about Altos data. So we're saying we're in a little bit worse of a seller's market than we were last month. And if we're looking at this thing, median list price staying pretty flat. Yeah, it dipped down a little bit, but not too significant. Median price of new listing homes also dipped a little bit, nothing huge. Price per square foot has gone down to $392. It's been significantly going down, but I almost feel like that's probably just more expensive homes are probably hitting the market more than anything else. Average days on market, guys. This is the story. 131. It has come down a little bit, so we are seeing some people raise their hand. And then the median days on market, 91. Right, so we're talking 3 months versus north of 4 months. And again, these are the conversations you need to be having with your sellers. The cost of overpricing the home. You're going to sit longer. And there's a 40% chance that you're going to be doing a price decrease, right? 40% of all homes in 8 triple lot 2 have a price decrease. So you're going to sit on the market. You're going to be making monthly payments. You're going to be paying your insurance. You're going to be paying your water bill. You're going to be paying insert whatever else here. If you stage the home, we're going to be having to keep it in storage. You're going to be living without some of your stuff if we had to declutter. And then we overprice the market, and right before you sell, we're going to have to drop the price. So does it make sense to get ahead of it, and let's price it right? These are the conversations we got to be comfortable with. Price increases. We saw a little bit of a dip, but 27%. Again, number that does not excite me. These are just new builds. Phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. These are homes that are already, the model is already on the MLS. They're doing a new phase, so they've increased the price. This is not a home has fallen off the market and they've come back and they're like, oh, well, we, 2% increase or $100. Like, that's not this. This is truly new builds. Relisted homes. These are homes that have fallen out of contract that have been going back on the market. We're seeing 7%. It has come down a little bit. Nothing significant. Inventory level, they're giving it a score of 15. Your median rent is $3,200, which probably is, that's going to get interesting. That's going to be a number that we should be watching in Colorado. And this could get really interesting, especially with all the laws, right? We just went through our ACU, our annual commission update. And if you haven't, do your ACU, get ahead of this thing. And with that being said, like, as we're looking at this, guys, and we're seeing all of these laws favor tenant, they are no longer, some tenant laws and some landlord laws, like they're pretty much all very favorable towards the tenant. And we start to see more landlords sell their houses, which is a reality that we may see, and we don't know yet. But if that does start to happen, we could see this rent start to go up because there's going to be less inventory. And I get that there's rules and there's laws against, price gouging. But with that being said, like, this number could get higher. So this will be a very interesting number to kind of watch as this year goes on. Again, it's a 46. We're still in the seller's market. There's not enough homes. There's not enough inventory. I get they're still sitting longer. And yet they're not sitting long enough for people willing to take what they have perceived as a loss.